Good afternoon, students. Am I audible?
Good afternoon, sir. Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir, you are audible.
Okay. So let us wait for 2 more minutes so that few more students can join. Then we'll start today's lecture. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So good afternoon once again. Am I audible to all?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'm Dr. Bhakesh. So from today onwards, I'll be in charge of your lectures. So the first 3 chapters were handled by my colleague, Dr. Poonesh. So today onwards, I'll be taking the rest of the 3 chapters. So the fourth chapter, which you're going to learn, is titled Quantum Mechanics. So in the 1 or 2 lectures from today, we'll be discussing the introduction to quantum mechanics, what do you mean by wave function, and particle in an infinite potential well. So my email ID is given in the slide. Whether the slides are visible to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you can
Sir,
note down
and-
my, yeah.
I have one doubt in this quantum mechanics. Is the class material enough that you will provide, or we making notes is advisable?
Making note in what sense? Like from other textbooks you're telling?
No, as in noting down what's being taught in the lecture.
Yes, yes. So some steps may be missing from your class materials. So that
Okay, sir.
will be there in the slide. So notes you will have to prepare.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, because for quizzes and all, you'll have to require those equations and all. So it is advisable to everyone to prepare your own notes because some steps may be missing in the textbook. So you can note down my email ID, which is given in the slide. So for any communication, you can use that email ID, and also you can chat through Teams also if you want to, if you have any queries. So before going to quantum, also I would like to remind that there will be a quiz in between the lecture. You are aware of that, right? From the last class onwards.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you'll have your quiz. It can happen at any moment in between the lectures. So you'll have to be active. You have to be active throughout the lecture hours. So before going directly to quantum mechanics, we'll just recap. So what all you have studied up to now, right? You studied 3 chapters, right? Before this, interference of light waves, diffraction pattern and polarization, quantum physics. Now let us see how these 3 chapters lead to our present chapter, quantum mechanics. So in interference of light waves, what is the important information you have obtained? What is the inference you have obtained from that chapter?
Sir, that light has wave-like characteristics.
That is, yeah, very good. That is one important information you have obtained, that light is a wave. Light is a wave. It is a very important information that light exhibits interference. So light has to be a wave like other waves like sound waves, water waves, they all exhibit this interference property. So when Thomas Young saw that light also exhibit interference pattern like that of a sound wave or like that of a water wave, he immediately said that light is a wave. This is an important observation. Like before Thomas Young did his famous experiment, before Thomas Young did his famous double slit experiment, light was believed to be a particle. Like Newton said that light is, he called as light as corpuscular nature, right? Light behaves as if it is made up of beam of particles called corpuscles. And since Newton was a dominant figure during that time, all physicists believed in this particular nature of light, that is the corpuscular nature of light. So few years later, Thomas Young did his famous experiment and he saw that light exhibit interference pattern, like water waves shows interference pattern, even light exhibits interference pattern. So he concluded that light is a wave, and later it was proved that light is an electromagnetic wave. Light is an electromagnetic wave. And again, diffraction. Light also exhibit diffraction. So it further confirms the wave nature of light. Further confirms the wave nature of light. All other types of waves also exhibits diffraction. Light also exhibits diffraction. So light should be a wave. So this diffraction patterns shown by light further confirms the wave nature of light. And polarization says that light is a transverse wave. Light is a transverse wave. So this polarization phenomena confirms that light is a transverse wave. So there are two types. You might have already studied two types of waves. There are longitudinal wave, transverse wave. This polarization phenomena shows that light is a transverse.
हेलो, क्या कर रहा है?
Yeah. Any doubt? Any doubt?
हाँ, लेक्चर नहीं, आवाज आ रही है तेरी. मुझे कंफर्म कर रहा था तो ये तेरी आवाज डिफरेंट आ रही थी.
Are you speaking to me or someone else? Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. There was some disturbance. That's why, yes. So the first two chapters confirms that light is a wave. Light is a wave. So what is the important information you got from the third chapter, quantum physics? So this we call as the classical view of light, classical physics view of light. What's the important information you got from the third chapter, quantum physics?
That light has
That sir, light has particle nature.
Yeah, you got a revolutionary new concept. You got a new concept or a revolutionary concept that in the first two chapters, these experiments confirm that light is a wave. But now we see that in the late 19th century, some new experiments were done, and those experiments proved that light is a particle. Light is a particle, and we are forced to believe that light exhibits something called wave-particle duality, right? Light exhibits something called wave-particle duality. Light is somehow both a wave and a particle at the same time. In some experiments, it behaves like waves. In some experiments, like photoelectric effect, Compton effect, can be explained only using the particle nature of light. So, light exhibits something called the wave-particle duality, and the particle associated with light is called as photons. They are called as photons. And you see that their energies are quantized. If you take a particular frequency of light, all the photons of that light has an energy equal to h nu. It is not like if you take a particular light having a certain frequency, different photons will have different energy. No, all the photons of that particular light will have the same energy, is equal to h nu. And certain experiments like photoelectric effect, Compton effect, etc. can be explained only using this particle nature of light. So we see that light exhibits wave-particle duality. And what else you have studied in this chapter, quantum physics? And
Sir,
these
that
experiments,
every
like 1 minute,
particle.
yeah, 1 minute.
Photoelectric effect.
Yeah, 1 minute. Before that, I'll add one more thing. Again, this phenomena like photoelectric effect and Compton effect cannot be explained using the classical theory of light. It cannot be explained using the wave theory of light. So classical theory fails to explain certain phenomena like photoelectric effect and Compton effect. So what else did you study in quantum physics? Now you can tell.
Sir, that every object in the world has both particle and wave nature, sir.
Yeah, very good. So this idea was put forward by Louis de Broglie, right?
De Broglie.
Yeah, this idea, what you have told, was put forward by Louis de Broglie. He said that it is not only light which exhibit wave-particle duality. All matter exhibits wave-particle duality. All matter can somehow behave like both like a wave and a particle. And the wave associated with a matter particle is called the de Broglie wave. It is called the de Broglie wave, or it's also called as matter wave. It's also called as matter wave. And it also can be called as quantum wave. It also can be called as quantum wave. The wave associated with a matter particle. De Broglie wave, matter wave, or quantum, or you can call it as a quantum wave. And this de Broglie wave, this wave nature is more prominent for which type of particles? Whether macroscopic particles, this wave particle duality is more prominent, or for microscopic particle? Microscopic in the sense the particle is having dimensions of the order of atoms or molecules.
Sir, microscopic.
So this is more prominent only for microscopic particles, because if you take a macroscopic particle, since its mass is very, very large, the de Broglie wave, the wavelength of the de Broglie wave associated with that particle will be very, very small. So you cannot detect such small wavelengths. So the wave effect you can neglect for such particles. For macroscopic particles, you can neglect the wave aspects. You can neglect the wave aspects. But when you go to the microscopic world or the quantum world, the systems where the dimensions is of the order of atoms or molecules, this wave particle duality becomes more prominent. In such systems, we see that we cannot use classical laws to explain the phenomena happening in the microscopic world. So we see that the phenomena happening in the microscopic world cannot be explained using classical laws, the existing physics like the Newtonian mechanics, wave theory of light. Using all those things, we cannot explain the phenomena which are happening in the microscopic world or at the quantum world. That is, systems consisting of atoms, molecule interacting with photons. So if you consider such systems, we cannot explain the properties of such systems using the already existing classical physics, because such matter, the microscopic matter, exhibits wave particle duality. So we require, so physicists try to develop a new theory to explain the physics at the microscopic level, and that new theory is called as quantum mechanics. That new theory is called as quantum mechanics. It is the physical theory of the microscopic world or the quantum world. Classical mechanics is the physical theory of the macroscopic world, the world around us, the day-to-day objects, the physics of day-to-day objects which we can see. So that is all explained by classical physics. But while we go to the microscopic domain, so while we reach the physics happening at very small dimension, this classical laws fails. So we require a new physics. So physicists develop new physical theory to explain the phenomena happening at the microscopic level or quantum level. That new physics is termed as quantum mechanics. Is it clear up to now? Any doubt?
No, sir.
Okay. We have discussed all these things. We have summarized all these things. So if you look at physics, it has two important branches: classical mechanics, classical physics. It's also called as classical physics or Newtonian mechanics. It's called Newtonian mechanics because it was early developed by Newton. Then you have quantum mechanics. Classical physics explain the dynamics of matter and energy on the macroscopic scale. So it is the physics of the macroscopic world, a scale familiar to human experience, day-to-day objects which we see. It successfully explains the dynamics of day-to-day objects. It can explain the motion like a simple system like a projectile, pendulum, and it can explain much complex systems like very large systems like comet, planets, solar system, galaxy. To explain all these systems, we just require classical physics. And classical physics is not wrong. It is still used in modern science and technology. For example, when you want to send a satellite to outer space, what you need to worry is only classical physics. You don't require any quantum physics there. But the problem with classical physics, what is the problem with classical physics? You cannot apply classical physics to the microscopic world. And it was proved in the late 19th century. In the late 19th century, physicists or experimentalists discovered new experiments like black body radiation, photoelectric effect, Compton effect. So all these new phenomena, which was discovered in the late 19th century, could not be explained using the existing classical physics. So it is not that classical physics is wrong.
Sir, your voice is breaking a bit.
Okay, whether everyone? Is this a problem to everyone?
No, sir.
No, sir, you're
No, sir.
clearly audible.
Okay, then
No,
maybe that person's like student's network. You just try to reconnect. So in the 19th century, in the late 19th century, new experiments were discovered which could not be explained using the existing physics. That existing physics is termed as classical physics. And these new phenomena were observed at length scales of atoms and subatomic particles. So the new phenomena which were discovered were happening at the scale of atoms and subatomic particles, systems consisting of atoms and subatomic particles interacting with electromagnetic radiation. So such systems where the constituent elements are atoms, subatomic particle, photons. So the phenomena happening in such systems could not be explained using classical physics. So physicists tried to develop a new theory to explain or to study the behavior of atomic and subatomic system. That new theory is termed as quantum mechanics. So this new theory is what we are going to study, quantum mechanics. So quantum mechanics explains the behavior of matter and its interaction on the length scale of atoms and subatomic particles. So whenever we try to explain the particular physical phenomena, we have to see what is the length scale of that particular system. If it is a macroscopic system, we can use classical physics. If it is a microscopic system or a quantum system where the constituent elements are atoms, molecules, photons. So to treat such systems, we cannot use classical mechanics, but we have to use quantum mechanics. Quantum mechanics is a study of mechanical systems whose dimensions are close to the atomic scales. And why we require quantum mechanics? Because at this length scale, wave particle duality is prominent. So if any system or any particle exhibits wave particle duality, then such systems or particles cannot be studied using classical physics. It cannot be studied using classical physics. We have to use quantum mechanics. So if any system or any particle exhibits wave particle duality, or if the wave behavior is prominent for such particles, then we have to surely use quantum mechanics. If we use classical physics, we will get wrong results. So is it clear what quantum mechanics try to explain? Or why do you require quantum mechanics?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That is to study mechanical systems whose dimensions are close to the atomic scale. And at this particular scale, the wave particle duality will be prominent. New physics will be seen at this particular length scale. And this new physics cannot be explained using classical laws. New physics like uncertainty principle, wave particle duality, at these particular length scales, new physics will be observed. New phenomena or new physics will start to appear. And this new physics cannot be explained using already existing classical laws, like quantization of energy, wave particle duality, Heisenberg uncertainty principle. So there are a lot of new phenomena which appear at the microscopic scales. And these phenomena cannot be explained using classical law. So a new physical theory is required to explain or to study such microscopic system. That new theory is coined as quantum mechanics. Now let us see how to develop this theory, quantum mechanics. What are the most important equations in this theory? What are the most important object in this theory? So let us go one by one. So in quantum mechanics, the most important object is something called the wave function. It is something called the wave function. Have you come across this term wave function in your secondary classes?
Yes, sir.
Okay, what do you mean by wave function?
Sir, a mathematical expression of a wave, sir.
Yeah. Now what we are dealing with de Broglie wave, right? So we saw that in we studied the de Broglie hypothesis. That is, matter exhibit wave particle duality, and the wave associated with a matter particle is called the de Broglie wave or matter wave. You can call it as quantum wave, whatever you want. Like, not whatever you want, de Broglie wave or matter wave or quantum wave. And the mathematical function representing this de Broglie wave of a quantum particle is called the wave function. For example, in the first chapter, you represented light wave with this equation E equal to E0 sine kx minus omega t, right? This is the wave function for light. This is the wave function for light. This mathematical expression represents the wave associated with light, right? Similarly, you can represent the de Broglie wave by using a mathematical function. That mathematical function is called the wave function, and this is the most important object or important quantity in quantum mechanics. And more often, the wave function is represented by the Greek letter psi. It is represented by the Greek letter psi. For example, electric field, you represent the electromagnetic field associated with a light wave, you represent it by E, right? Similarly, the wave function associated with a matter particle or the wave associated with the matter part, the de Broglie wave associated with a particle will be represented by a wave function, and it is normally represented by this Greek letter psi. So you pronounce it as psi. P is silent here, Greek letter psi, and in general this wave function will be the function of the coordinates of the particle and time. It will be function of the coordinates of the particle, the position coordinate and also time. If the particle is moving only in one dimension, it will depend only on x. If the particle is moving in all three dimensions, the wave function will be a function of all the three coordinates, all the three position coordinates, and also of time. This wave function represents the state of the system, the state of a quantum system. We say that the wave function represents the state of the quantum system. Why do we say that the wave function represents the state of a quantum system? Any idea? In quantum mechanics, we say that the wave function represents the state of a quantum system. For example, if you take an electron, if you know its wave function, we say that that particular wave function represents the state of that particular electron. Why do we say the wave function represents the state of a quantum system?
Because a state means the energy associated with the electron and wavelength and frequency change for the energy.
No, not only the energy. The wave function is not energy. Wave function is not energy. Once you know the wave function, you can calculate the energy and whatever you have said, all the other things. You are close to the answer. Why do we say that the wave function represents the state of the quantum system?
Sir, because it tells about probability of finding the electron.
Yeah, it helps to find the probability. Okay. Not only probability, it is because it is given in this slide. The wave function contains all the information that can be known about the particle. That is why we say that the wave function represents the state of the quantum system. Once you know the wave function of a particular system or a particular particle at a particular instant of time, you can get all the information about the system from this particular wave function. You can predict the past and the future of that particle from the knowledge of the wave function. That is why we say that the wave function represents the state of the quantum system. So if you can somehow calculate the wave function of a particular particle or a particular system at a particular instant of time, that means that you have got all the information that can be known about the particle. You can predict its past, you can predict its future. And you can also obtain all the measurable quantities such as position, momentum, energy, etc. from the knowledge of the wave function. Once you know the wave function of a particular quantum system or a particular particle, then all the observable which you want can be obtained from this knowledge of the wave function. That is, you can know what is the position of the particle, you can know what is the momentum of that quantum particle, you can know what is the energy of that quantum particle. All this can be obtained once you know the wave function of the quantum particle. That is why we say that the wave function represents the state of a quantum system or a quantum particle. And this wave function is the most important quantity in quantum mechanics. So when you apply quantum mechanics to a particular system, your aim is to calculate the wave function of that particular system or that particular particle. So the wave function is the most important quantity in quantum mechanics. And it contains all the information that can be known about the particle. For example, position, momentum, energy, etc. So once you know psi, you can obtain all these observables. So before going deep, let us try to interpret what is this wave function, or what type of wave is this matter wave or quantum wave. How is it different from classical wave? How to interpret this matter wave? In other words, how can we interpret this matter wave or this quantum wave? Before going to matter wave, let us see some ordinary classical waves. Let us see some of the ordinary classical wave. For example, light wave. Can you see these animations on the screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, light waves. You can have sound waves. These are waves on a string. These are waves on the surface of water. Now, if you take light, we have already studied that light is these are all classical waves. These are all classical waves. So if you take light, we have seen that light is an electromagnetic wave, right? Light is an electromagnetic wave. Why you call light an electromagnetic wave? Why you call light an electromagnetic wave?
Because electrical and magnetic field oscillate perpendicularly and simultaneously.
So while light waves pass through a region of space, it is the electric field and the magnetic field which vibrate as the light wave progresses, right? So what is actually oscillating is the electric and magnetic field while light wave travels. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
So light waves, there is an associated physical quantity, the electric field and magnetic field. So with the light wave, we can associate physical quantities like electric field and magnetic field. So while light waves pass through a region of space, it is the electric field and magnetic field which are waving in space, which are oscillating. Similarly, if you take sound waves, what happens while sound waves pass through a region of space? What is actually waving? Can you associate any physical quantity with the sound waves? What is actually waving here? So at some region of space, there is
the medium.
particles of the medium are vibrating. Like at some places the medium gets compressed. At some regions the medium get rarefied. Or in other words, at some region of space you have a region of high density or high pressure. At some region of space where there is rarefaction, the pressure is low. So you can associate a physical quantity called pressure with sound waves. And this pressure is waving at different point in space, pressure or density, air density or air pressure. So you can associate a physical quantity called pressure with sound waves. And it is this pressure which is waving as the sound waves progresses through space. At some places where there is compression, you have a region of high pressure. At some places where there is rarefaction, you have region of low pressure. So there is consecutive high pressure region, low pressure region. So there is an oscillation in pressure at different points in space. So with sound waves, you can associate a physical quantity called pressure. So sound is nothing but a pressure wave. It is a pressure wave. Like light, we can call it as an electromagnetic wave. Sound is a pressure wave. Similarly, if you take waves passing through a structured string, What is actually waving here? What is the physical quantity you can associate with the waves on a string?
Amplitude.
Yeah, amplitude or displacement, right? It is this displacement. Each mass element of this string is making a to and fro motion from its mean position. That is, the displacement of the mass element is changing with respect to time. It is oscillating up and down. So you can associate a physical quantity called displacement of these mass elements. So as the wave progresses, this displacement is actually waving. It is executing a harmonic motion. You write, say, displacement y equal to y0 sine kx minus omega t to represent this wave. So the physical quantity which is changing or waving is the displacement of this mass element. Similarly, the waves on the surface of water, it is the displacement or it's actually the displacement of the water element. Small mass element of water, it is oscillating up and down. So if you take classical wave, with each of these classical wave, you can associate a physical quantity. So light is an electromagnetic wave, sound is a pressure wave, etc. But now if you take a matter wave, or a quantum wave, matter wave is also called as quantum wave. Now how to interpret this matter wave or de Broglie wave or the wave function? What is the physical quantity associated with the wave function? Can you associate any physical quantity? For example, this light can be expressed at E equal to E0 sine kx minus omega t. So the physical quantity which we associate with light waves is the electric field. Similarly, sound waves, you can write it as rho equal to rho 0 sine kx minus omega t to represent a sound wave. Here rho is nothing but the pressure. So we have a physical quantity here. Similarly, while we write the waves on a string as y equal to y0 sine kx minus omega t, here y represents the displacement of a small mass element on the string. Again, we have a physical quantity called the displacement. Now, if you write a wave function for a matter wave, does it correspond to any physical quantity? Will it correspond to any physical quantity? Whether the matter wave corresponds to any physical quantity. Can you associate any physical quantity to a matter wave or a quantum wave? Yeah, someone answered.
No, sir.
No. Why? What may be the
position? Sir, position.
No, you cannot associate position. So if you look at matter wave or the wave function itself, you cannot associate a physical quantity. That is because the wave function for a quantum system or a particle will in general be a complex function. It is a complex function. All physical quantities are real, right? If you take position, if you take momentum, if you take energy. So whatever physical quantity you take, you have to express it by real functions or real quantities. But if you try to calculate the wave function for a quantum system, you will see that it will be in general a complex function. Now we cannot associate a physical meaning to a complex quantity. All physical quantities are real. So if you look at wave function, in general, it will be a complex valued function. It will be a complex valued function. So the wave function will not represent any physical quantity. It will not represent any physical quantity. Now we associate a physical meaning to the absolute square of the wave function. We know that if you have a complex number, if you take its absolute square, what we get is a real number, right? If you take a complex function and if you take its absolute square, the modulus square, that is psi star into psi, where psi star represents the complex conjugate of this function psi. So if you take this quantity, if you calculate this quantity psi star into psi, which is nothing but modulus psi square, this quantity will be always real and it will always be positive. And we associate a physical meaning to this quantity modulus psi square, not to psi itself, not to the wave function itself, because the wave function will be a complex valued function. It will be a complex valued function, and we cannot associate a physical meaning to a complex function because all physical quantity will be real. So we associate a meaning to the absolute square of the wave function, that is psi star into psi, where psi star represents the complex conjugate of this function psi. Now how do you interpret modulus psi square? So in quantum mechanics, the modulus psi square or the modulus square of the wave function is interpreted to represent the probability density of finding a particle at a given point in space at some instant of time. So if you have the wave function, if you are given the wave function, or if you are able to calculate the wave function for a quantum system or a quantum particle, the absolute square of this wave function will represent the probability density of finding the particle at that particular position and particular instant of time. What do you mean by probability density, which is written as P of x? What do you mean by probability density? What do you mean by probability density?
The probability of finding
No,
particle in the given point at some time.
No, I'm not asking what is modulus psi square. What do you mean by the term probability density? The literal meaning, I'm asking the literal meaning, probability density. Like if you tell mass density is, it is mass per unit volume, charge density is charge per unit volume. What is probability density?
Probability per unit volume.
Yeah, probability density means probability per unit volume. But if you take one-dimensional system, if the particle is moving in one dimension, probability density means probability per unit length. So that distinction you should be able to do, right? If the particle is moving in one dimension. So in this chapter, we will be discussing only one-dimensional system. Higher dimensional systems will be treated in the next chapter. So in this chapter, we will be discussing only one-dimensional system, simple ideal systems where the particle is moving only in one dimension. So once we are clear about one-dimensional system, we will be discussing complicated system, three-dimensional system. So for one-dimensional system, probability density means probability per unit length. For three-dimensional systems, where the particle moves in all three dimensions, probability density will mean probability per unit volume. So according to quantum mechanics or the quantum theory, modulus psi square will represent the probability density or the probability per unit length or probability per unit volume, depending on the dimension of the system. So once you know the wave function of the particle, you can calculate what is the probability of finding the particle in a small region of space. Suppose a particle is moving in one dimension, say from minus infinity to plus infinity, only along the x-axis. I want to know what is the probability of finding the particle in a small element dx, which is located at the point x. How can you calculate this probability? Anyone? Yeah, very good. That probability is given by the probability density modulus psi square into dx. That is, I need to know what is the wave function at this particular point in space at x. So that would, sorry, I'll write it once more legibly. So the probability of finding the particle at the point x, or sorry, the probability of finding the particle in this small region dx, which is located at the point x, is given by the probability density at that particular point, that is modulus psi of x g the whole square into dx, into this length element. Similarly, if I want to find what is the probability of finding the particle in this small region dx located at x1, how can I find this probability? So this is an infinitesimal length element dx. There is some distraction. Switch off the phone. So please, so can be done, but
You can mute his mic.
yeah. Okay, let us come back to the question.
Sir, what
So
is that symbol?
Which symbol?
That x comma t whole square before that.
This one you are telling.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the probability of finding the particle in a small region dx located at x. 1 minute. I'll erase the content on the slide. 1 minute. So this thing is nothing but the probability. See, I've written here. This quantity is nothing but the probability of finding the particle in a small region dx, in a small length element, infinitesimal length element dx, which is located at the point x. So the probability of finding the particle in this small region dx, which is located at the point x, is given by modulus psi of xt whole square into dx. So this up to here is the probability density. This is the probability density. If you multiply the probability density with this length element, you will get what is the probability of finding the particle in this length element dx. Is it clear? Any doubt?
No, sir.
So if you have doubt,
No,
you can
sir.
ask anyone. Yeah. So if you know the probability density, you can calculate the probability. So probability density is nothing but probability per unit time, probability per unit length. And if you have the length element, just multiply that length element with the probability density, you will get the probability. So once you get the wave function, you can calculate the probability density. Once you get the probability density, you can calculate the probability itself. So if you have an infinitesimal, if you have a very small length element, that is infinitesimal length element dx, which is located at the point x, the probability of finding this quantum particle in this small region of space is given by the probability density square at this particular point times dx. So in the same way, suppose I need to know what is the probability of finding the particle in this small region dx, in this infinitesimally small element dx, which is located at the point x1. What is the probability of finding this particle in this region, which has a width dx, which has an infinitesimal width dx, but it is located at x1. Now what is the probability of finding the same particle in this particular region? How can you calculate that? Anyone?
The modulus of psi x1t whole square dx.
Very good. So the probability of finding the particle in this particular region would be modulus psi of x1 comma t the whole square into dx. So once I know the wave function, I can calculate what is the probability of finding the particle at different points in space. So once I get the wave function, I will get the probability density. Once I get the probability density, I can know what is the probability of finding the particle at different points in space. So this is how you interpret the wave function. So wave function, there is no physical quantity associated with the wave function because it is a complex valued function. But if you take the modulus square of the wave function, that can be used to calculate the probability density or subsequently the probability of finding the particle at a particular point in space. So you can say the matter wave is associated with the probability of finding the particle. There is no physical quantity associated with the wave function. So but with the modulus square of the wave function, we can associate probability density of finding the particle. So we can say the matter wave is nothing but a probability wave because it gives the probability of finding the particle at different points in space at a particular instant of time. So is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay.
Yes,
Now,
sir.
what if I take a finite region? Suppose I take a very finite region, say between points A and B. What is the probability of finding the same particle in this finite region? Earlier, I considered a very infinitesimally small region, dx. Now, if I want to know what is the probability of finding the particle in this finite region, AB, how
Sir,
can you calculate
integral
this?
with the limits of a to b.
What? Can you repeat?
Sir, integration with limits of a, from a to b.
Yeah, what you have to integrate?
Sub p of x dx.
Yeah, very good. P of x dx. Or in other words, you can come to the same conclusion that I will divide this large interval into very small infinitesimal interval, and the probability of finding the particle in this region A to B is the sum of the probabilities in each individual region, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now since this region is continuous, instead of taking the sum, you have to do the integration. So if you take a finite region of space A to B, the probability of finding the particle in this finite region would be integral a to b modulus psi of xt whole square dx. So this integral will give the probability of finding the particle between a and b at a particular instant of time. So this is one particular wave function which is plotted with respect to x, not the wave function but the probability density. So if you look at this probability density versus x, can you say at which point in space the particle is most likely to be found?
A.
Why?
So because probability density is more.
Yeah, because at the point A, the probability density is maximum. So if you try to measure the position of the particle, the most probable point where you would find the particle would be A. Where would it be least likely to be found?
B.
Where the B, because the probability density is 0, because at this point modulus psi square is 0. So in this region, in this particular point B, the probability of finding the particle will be 0. So once you know the wave function or the probability density, you can calculate what would be the probability of finding the particle at a particular region in space. So if you want to find the probability of finding the particle in a finite region of space, then you have to do this particular integration. So if you want to know what is the probability of finding the particle in between this region a to b, that probability will be given by this integral a to b modulus psi of xt whole square into dx. So this is how you calculate the probability of finding the particle at a particular point in space or a particular region in space. For that, you need to know the wave function. Now, how do you obtain the wave function? How do you obtain the wave function?
Schrodinger's equation.
Yeah, very good. Have everyone come across the Schrodinger equation?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in quantum mechanics, we have told that the most important quantity is this wave function, which is represented by this Greek letter psi. And how do you obtain an expression for this wave function? You obtain it by solving an important equation called the Schrodinger wave equation or just Schrodinger equation. So this is the most important equation in quantum mechanics. Like we have Newton's second law in classical physics, that is F equal to ma equation. So this is the most important equation in Newtonian mechanics, the Newton's second law, or d square x by dt square equal to force, that particular equation. In quantum mechanics, the most important equation is the Schrodinger equation. And if you solve the Schrodinger equation, it is a second order differential equation. If you solve this differential equation, you can obtain the wave function as the solution of this differential equation. The solution of this differential equation is nothing but the wave function. So for every system, you can calculate its wave function by solving this Schrodinger equation. And the Schrodinger equation reads minus h bar square by 2m d square psi by dx square plus u psi equal to e psi. This is a second order differential equation, second order linear differential equation. So let us explain the terms. Here u represents the potential energy of the particle or the system. So the letter U represents the potential energy of the system. It's a single particle, it represents the potential energy of that particular particle. Capital E represents the total energy. Capital E represents the total energy of the quantum system or quantum particle. This constant, which is pronounced h bar, have you come across this constant h bar?
Yes.
Sir.
Okay. H bar is nothing but a symbol to represent Planck's constant divided by 2 pi. So h bar is just a symbol to represent Planck constant divided by 2 pi, because in most of the equation this term comes together. So every time we'll have to write h by 2 pi, h by 2 pi. But to avoid that, repeatedly writing h by 2 pi, we give a symbol to represent h by 2 pi. It's called as h bar. It is pronounced as h bar. Some pronounce it as h cross or h cut. You can pronounce it in any way, you can read it in any way, but you have to keep in mind that if you write like this, it is nothing but h by 2 pi. So if you know the potential energy of the system or the particle, then by solving this particular second order differential equation, you can obtain the wave function. So the wave function is obtained by solving an equation called the Schrodinger equation. So you have to remember this equation, minus h bar square by, here m is the mass of the particle or the system. Small m is the mass of the particle, mass. So minus h bar square by 2m d square psi by dx square, the differential operator d square psi by dx square plus u psi equal to E psi. And also you have to keep in mind this equation is called the one-dimensional Schrodinger equation. So similarly, there is a three-dimensional Schrodinger equation. In this chapter, we will be discussing only one-dimensional system where the particle is moving only along one dimension. So this equation is called the one-dimensional Schrodinger equation. If you look at three-dimensional Schrodinger equation, there would be three derivative terms. So that Schrodinger equation we will discuss in the next chapter. So in this chapter, we will be dealing only with the one-dimensional Schrodinger equation. U is the potential energy of the system, E is the total energy of the system.
Sir?
Yeah.
Sir, this is a homogeneous equation, right, sir?
Yeah, this is a homogeneous equation. This is a homogeneous equation. It is a linear homogeneous equation. There is no term other than psi, like. Now, one more thing you have to be sure, right? I have told that wave function is obtained by solving the Schrodinger equation. But one thing you have to keep in mind is that all solution of the Schrodinger equation cannot be treated as a wave function. It cannot be physically acceptable as a wave function. There are certain other constraints this wave function should satisfy. And they are called as the properties of the wave function. So the wave function is obtained by Schrodinger equation, by solving the Schrodinger equation. But all solutions of Schrodinger equation cannot be treated as a wave function. So the wave function has to satisfy some extra constraints. So let us look at what are those extra constraints.
So,
Yeah.
in the last slide,
Yeah. This
sir,
slide,
this equation, is it H or H bar?
it is H bar. It is H bar. This is,
Okay, sir, yes.
it is H bar. I think the font is
So,
small. Yeah.
sir, can't we simplify this equation in red by eliminating phi?
How can
Is it possible?
we cannot eliminate phi, sir? Our aim is to calculate this phi, right? It's a differential equation. How can you eliminate phi?
Okay, sir.
This is a differential equation, right? We cannot cut this psi, right? Our aim is to find this psi. If you cut this psi, this equation doesn't have any meaning, right? This is a differential operator acting on psi. So once this differential operator acts on psi, it need not be anything linear to psi, right? Our aim is to find this psi which satisfies this differential equation. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that is, we need to know what is this function which will satisfy this differential equation. For different system, the potential energy will be different. So for different system, we have different wave function. So only once we know this potential energy, we can calculate the wave function. So first of all, you are given a quantum system. You need to know what is the potential energy of that system. So plug that potential energy here and solve this differential equation by using any of your mathematical techniques. So once you solve this differential equation, you will get the wave function and you will get an expression for the wave function. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
So but one more thing, as I told you have to keep in mind, all solution of this differential equation cannot be called a wave function. If it has to be a wave function, it also has to obey certain other constraint or certain other criteria. Not only that, it has to be a solution to this equation, it also has to satisfy certain property. And what are those property? So there are three properties. One is the wave function must be finite, continuous and single valued at every point in space. So whatever solution you get by solving this differential equation, if it has to be wave function, if it has to be called a wave function, it has to be finite, continuous and single valued at every point in space. Why do you think the wave function must be finite, continuous, and single valued? Why do you think the wave function must be finite, continuous, and single valued?
It should be continuous because it's a wave.
No, they can be discontinuous wave also, right?
Sir, if it is not, sir, if it is a discontinuous function, then there's no, we can't, it is not derivable, sir. Differential equation won't exist. Non-continuous function.
No, non-continuous function can have derivative, right?
Sir, but
Okay.
differentiability.
Yeah, it won't be differential. Okay, let us talk.
Yes, sir.
Let us not talk in the terms of differential equation from physical point of view, from physics point of view.
Sir, if it breaks, sir, then the quantum particle cannot go to other position directly by
The
jumping.
wave has nothing to do with the what you call the size of the quantum particle, right?
Sir,
Yeah.
sir,
No, just
the wave function has to be continuous because it should, because if it is not, then we won't be able to describe the behavior of the particle in the wave function across any region.
why? Just using the interpretation of the wave function, can you tell why the wave function should be finite, continuous, and single valued? One of you which you have told that derivative is a second order differential equation. It has to be continuous because derivative won't exist, but that is the mathematical aspect. What you have told is right, but that is a mathematical aspect. But from the physics point of view, we have given a certain interpretation for the wave function, right? Using that interpretation, can you say why this wave function should be finite, continuous, and single valued?
The probability
No,
of
sir.
the particle to exist.
Yeah, because the wave function is related to the probability density. And you know that the probability for whichever event you describe a probability should be finite, right? Always probability will be finite. Probability is a number which is between 0 and 1. And the probability density for any, if you look at probability, it is finite, it is continuous, and it is single valued. For any event, the probability is single valued, right? For example, if you toss a coin, it is either head or tail, right? It is single valued. It is either head or tail. It cannot be both at the same time, right? So the probability of getting head is half. It is single value. The probability of getting tail, if you toss a coin, it is half again. If it is a ferret coin, it is single valued quantity. It is finite. It is half, value 0.5. It is a finite value. So since wave function is related to probability, we interpret the wave function as the probability related to probability, right? We call the modulus I square as the probability density, and the probability density should be finite, continuous, and single valued. And as a result, the wave function itself must be finite, continuous, and single valued. If the wave function is infinite, if it's an infinite function, the probability density becomes infinite function. There is nothing called you cannot call a function probability density if it gives an infinite value. Similarly, the probability density should be single valued. For any event, the probability density will, if you calculate probability, it should have a single value. So the wave function itself must be finite, continuous, and single value. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Sir, I didn't understand
Yes,
the
sir.
single valued one, sir.
No. For example, I'll take a single example. If I toss a coin, a fair coin, what is the probability of getting heads?
Half.
It is just one value, right? 0.5.
Yes.
It is not, probability of getting heads is 0.5 and 0.6. It cannot happen like this, right? This is a
Yes.
double valued function.
Yes,
So the
sir.
probability is a single valued function. So the wave function itself must be a single valued function. If the wave function is a double valued function, the probability density becomes a double valued function, and the probability you calculate may be a double valued quantity. So the wave function must be finite, it must be continuous, it must be single valued, because the wave function is related to probability or probability density. Sorry.
So why should phi be continuous?
Continuous because the probability density should be continuous. For example, suppose the particle is moving in one dimension along x-axis. Suppose there is a finite probability of finding the particle in this region. There is some small probability of finite. There cannot be a sudden change in the probability in the nearby region, right? The probability cannot change suddenly in the nearby region. That is the reason that the probability density the wave function should be continuous. Your probability cannot suddenly change at a particular region. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
For example, if I take the previous graph, so this is a continuous graph. It gives the variation in the probability density at different points in space. We cannot have something like this. Suddenly the probability density is changing at a particular point in space. So the wave function itself should be continuous. The probability density cannot change abruptly at a particular point in space. So the wave function should be finite, continuous and single valued. So looking at the plot of the wave function itself, you can tell that whether the wave function is acceptable or not acceptable. So this is a continuous function. So this is a single valued function. So this is a finite function. Nowhere the value of the wave function or the probability density is becoming infinite. So this is an acceptable wave function. So for a wave function to be acceptable, physically acceptable, it should be finite, single valued and continuous. It should be finite, single valued and continuous. And the second important property is the derivative of the wave function also should be finite, single valued and continuous. Not only the wave function, the first derivative, that is d psi by dx, must be finite, continuous and single valued. This is what the reason why the derivative should be finite, continuous and single valued, because the momentum of the particle is proportional to the first derivative of the wave function. You can prove that the momentum is related to the first derivative of the wave function, and momentum should be a finite function, it should be a continuous function and a single valued function. Momentum cannot have two different values, right? It is a single valued function, and momentum cannot be infinite for a particle which has finite energy E. The momentum cannot be infinite. So the first derivative of the wave function should be finite, continuous and single valued. So the wave function should be finite. Yeah.
Sir, can the value of psi be negative as well?
Psi can be negative. The wave function, the numerical value can be negative. If you calculate psi at a particular point, it can be negative.
Psi square, sir.
Psi square cannot be negative. But once you take a square of a quantity, you are taking the modulus square. You are not just taking the square. Psi is a complex number and you are taking the modulus square of psi. So this is always real and positive. Okay, this quantity is always real and positive. Is it clear? Yes. Modulus psi square means psi star into psi. This quantity is always real and it is always positive. You are taking the modulus psi square or psi star into psi, complex conjugate of psi times psi. So this quantity is always real and positive. So the physical meaning we associate with modulus psi square. We interpret the wave function using modulus psi square. Psi itself doesn't have any physical meaning because it is a complex valued function. We associate a physical meaning to the modulus psi square, which we call it as the probability density. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So psi must be finite, continuous and single valued at every point in space, not just at a single point. At all points in space, the wave function should be finite, continuous and single valued. The first derivative of psi should be finite, continuous and single valued. And the wave function also must satisfy this important property. The wave function must be normalizable. That is, if you integrate this quantity, modulus psi square dx, from the limits minus infinity to infinity, this integral must be equal to 1. Now, what is the meaning of this statement or this integral? How do you interpret this integral? Integral minus infinity to infinity modulus I square dx is equal to 1. The wave function should satisfy this condition. Otherwise, you cannot accept this wave function as a physically acceptable wave function. Why this integral must be equal to 1?
The total probability of the function is.
Yeah, we know that modulus I square dx is nothing but the probability of finding the particle at the point x in the small region dx. Now, if we integrate this whole quantity from minus infinity to infinity, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? By this left hand side, integral minus.
Sir, that at every point we have taken the sum of the phi square dx.
Very good. Or in other words, this left hand side is nothing but the probability of finding the particle in the whole region of space from minus infinity to plus infinity, right?
You are considering the entire sample space.
Yeah, we are very good. We are considering the entire sample space. What is the probability of finding the particle inside this region, minus infinity to plus infinity? And what is that probability? It should be 1. The particle should be somewhere inside this space, right? So that probability must be equal to 1. So this left hand side means the probability of finding the particle in this entire region of space. At different regions, the probability may be different. But what is the probability of finding the particle in this entire region of space? You have to add all these probability. And you know that from the theorem of probability, the sum of all probability must result to 1. So this integral means you are adding all the probability at different intervals of this space. And if you add all this probability at different region in space, you should get 1. The sum of all probabilities must be equal to 1. This again comes from the probabilistic interpretation of the wave function, statistical interpretation of wave function or the probabilistic interpretation of wave function, because modulus I square represents the probability density. Modulus I square into dx will give the probability, and sum of all the probabilities must be equal to 1. Now, since x is the continuous variable, instead of summation, you will have to do the integration. That is, integral minus infinity to plus infinity modulus I square dx must be equal to 1. So this condition also comes from the probabilistic interpretation of the wave function or the statistical interpretation of the wave function. So the wave function is obtained by solving the Schrodinger equation, and the solution of the Schrodinger equation should satisfy all these 3 important constraints. So if it does not satisfy these constraints, we have to discard that particular solution and we have to look for some other solution of the Schrodinger equation. So the wave function is obtained by solving the Schrodinger equation, and that particular wave function should also satisfy these 3 important property. That is, the wave function should be finite, continuous and single valued. The first derivative of the wave function d psi by dx must be finite, continuous and single valued, and the wave function must be normalizable. That is, the wave function should satisfy this relation, integral minus infinity to plus infinity modulus I square dx must be equal to 1. Any doubt here? Any doubt here? Any doubt?
No, sir.
Okay. If anybody has any doubt, you can ask, or else you can proceed.
Sir, when will be the quiz?
That is a very good question. When will be the quiz? But I cannot answer when it will be. But now, like since we are reached at this particular point, you can guess when will be the quiz, right? So it will be very soon. Only I can say that. Or else. So quiz will be soon. So try to be here. So before going to the quiz, let us also discuss one important concept called the expectation value. So expectation value means nothing but the average value of any physical quantity, because for example, if you try to do an experiment and suppose you are trying to measure the position of the particle. How do you know the measurement is precise? Suppose you are trying to measure the position of a particle by some experiment. How do you know your measurement is precise?
By comparing it with the theoretical value.
That is accuracy, right? You say that it is accurate. How do you know your measurement is precise? Precision and accuracy is different, right?
By taking out the average.
So you have to calculate the average value, right? You have to do a series of measurements. You will not do one measurement. So you will do a series of measurements. So in the first measurement, if you get x1, the second measurement, if you get x2, and if all these measurements are very close to each other, then you say that your measurement is precise. And the precise value of a measurement, you calculate by taking the average of all these measurements. You take the arithmetic mean of all these measurements, and that particular value, you call it as the average value of your measurement. So that will give the precise value of your position. In quantum mechanics, this particular average value is called the expectation value. It is just a new term to call the average value. Average value is nothing but the expectation value. And this average value is represented by a symbol, by this angular symbol. For example, this symbol represents the average value of position or the expectation value of the position. And if you know the wave function of the particle, you can calculate the expectation value using this particular integral. Integral minus infinity to plus infinity psi star x psi dx, or this is same as integral minus infinity to infinity x into modulus psi square dx. In other words, the expectation value is the average position at which one expects to find the particle after many measurements. The expectation value of position is nothing but the average position at which one expects to find the particle after many measurements. So it is nothing but the arithmetic mean of large number of position measurements. The arithmetic mean of large number of position measurements. So if you know the wave function of the particle, you can also calculate this expectation value. You can predict what would be the average position of the particle once you know the wave function. Once you know the wave function, you can predict experimentally what you would get if you measure the average position of the particle. You have to just do this integral. By doing this integral, you can predict what is the expectation value of the position or the average value of position. Any doubt?
Sir, the phi star is just phi into phi, right, sir?
No, psi star is not psi into psi. As I told earlier, if you see this symbol, it is nothing but complex conjugate of psi. Complex conjugate. You have come across complex conjugate, right? If you have a complex number z, the complex conjugate is represented by z star. Have you come across? If z is equal to a plus ib, a complex number, z star would be equal to a minus ib.
Yes,
Yeah, a minus ib.
Yes,
So wherever the psi star is there, it represents the complex conjugate of psi. So psi star into psi is nothing but modulus psi square.
Sir, in this integral, psi is constant, na sir?
Psi is, well, 1 minute, let me stop here because I'll make your quiz will be posted very soon. So we will keep the discussion after the quiz.
Okay, sir.
The quiz will be at 3:15. So now it is near to 3:15. So we'll keep our discussion after the quiz. So 3:15 to 3:18, you will have the quiz.
Sir.
Yeah.
Sir, where will you post the teams?
It will be in the Teams. It
Chat
will be
box
as
or
an assignment,
assignments where?
not chat box. It will appear as a notification, as an assignment.
Okay, sir, got it.
It will come as a notification.
Okay, sir.
Sir, what will be the time limit?
3:15 to 3:18, 3 minutes for quiz.
So assignments generally get posted a bit late on Teams.
Now let us see. If it is not the case, it will be extended.
Okay, thank
Let
you.
us see at 3:15 whether it will be posted.
So if the assignment is due at 3:18, we need to submit it by 3:17. So if you could extend it by a minute from next time, it would be good.
No, it will be. Let us see. How many people are able to. So don't try to submit it at the last moment. Most of the students, they do that. they try to submit at the last moment and they are not able to submit. So as soon as you finish plugging the answer, you click submit. Don't wait for the time to end.
Sir, next time instead of posting the assignment, could you post the link, because that would be
1 minute. The assignment has been posted. You try to answer it, and
Yes.
later we will do the discussion. It has already been posted. Don't waste time. Okay, welcome
It
back to
didn't.
the lecture. Whether everyone are able to submit?
Yes, sir. It didn't accept my response. I submitted at 3:19.
Okay.
Yeah, it shows the form is not currently accepting responses.
Yeah, it is only up to 318, right?
You uploaded it at wait.
Oh, sir. Yeah, I can see the uploaded time right here, right?
Sir, it takes at least 1 minute to load and the questions sometimes don't appear. So, could you please give us like 2-3 minutes extra next time?
No, it is not my decision, right? Like, we have to talk to the academic section. Like, we'll have to.
Sir, other subjects give us 5 minutes,
Some
sir,
classes we
including
do
the
get
time to
So
calculate.
even I post
5
it
minutes,
like
5 minutes, sir.
1 minute before, and I have given 1 minute after the quiz. It is actually 5 minutes only, but while I tell it is 3 minutes.
So,
See, even if you have submitted after 318, it would have been accepted, right? It is accepted. It means that
sir,
we are
because
giving
in our
an
assignment quizzes, sir, because in
Yeah.
our quizzes, papers used to be scheduled at 6:30, but they used to come at like 7:15 and stuff. So
Yeah, I
we
understand.
can't
There is a
depend on
problem.
Teams posting.
I understand there is a problem sometimes with the teams, but the timings of the quiz cannot be changed by me. Like,
Sir,
it has
one
been
doubt, sir, I had, sir,
Yeah.
about this. Sir, in the one question we had to find Compton shift or Compton wavelength, sir. I forgot.
It
I
is clearly
found out the
written, right,
Compton
in the question.
wavelength. Yes, sir, but I forgot this. No, now I'm having second thoughts. What did I take exactly?
The question was to find the content shift.
So that means final
Delta lambda.
wavelength minus
Delta
I
lambda,
did it
yeah.
wrong, yeah.
Delta lambda.
Then mine, I got it wrong, I guess.
So we'll stop the lecture today. If you have
Sir,
any
and
doubts,
electron more than proton or proton more than electron?
So delta x will be of the order of h by mv, which has smaller mass will have greater uncertainty, right?
Right.
So any doubt regarding today's lecture, like not the quiz, today's lecture?
Sir, will we have the derivation of this expectation value formula?
No, there is no derivation. Like for this, it can be derived, but for you can take it as it is, the expression. Because the mathematical background which you require to derive this expression is like beyond the scope of this lecture. So you can take this expectation value as it is. Just the formula, you just need to remember the formula for this expectation value. Is it clear? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So expectation value means nothing but the average value. If you do an experiment, the expectation value of position means if you do an experiment and measure the position of the particle large number of time and take the arithmetic mean of all those values, that result is nothing called the expectation value. And if you know the wave function, you can predict what would be the expectation value for position using this particular formula. Minus infinity to infinity psi star x into psi or modulus psi square x dx. Any other doubt? Any other doubt regarding what we have discussed today? So we just gave a brief introduction to quantum mechanics. Now, so what we will do in the next chapter is, no, not the next chapter, the next lecture is we will apply these things to a very simple quantum system called a particle in a box and try to obtain the wave function for that particular system, or for a particle trapped in a potential well, the wave function of a particle trapped in a potential well. So we'll try to solve the Schrodinger equation for that particular system and try to see what is the wave function and different physics that Schrodinger equation predicts once we solve the Schrodinger equation. So 1 minute, let me take the attendance. So we'll end today's lecture here. If you have no doubts, you can leave. Those who have any
So,
doubts can stay back. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
so what was the answer for the numerical question, sir? Could we know?
Which question? Like,
It's in the
there
quiz,
are-
sir.
yeah, both questions were somewhat conceptual, right? You actually don't require any calculation there. Even though some numbers were given there, which you are talking about the Compton shift equation.
Yes, sir.
Delta lambda will be equal to 2 times hc or lambda c, the Compton wavelength, 2 times lambda c, because that Compton scattering is for 180 degree. Theta is 180 degree there. So delta lambda will be equal to 2 times lambda c. So 2 times 0.0243 nanometer. So it is 0.0486 nanometer. That is the answer.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Because the photon recoils, right? So the angle, the scattering angle is 180 degree. So delta lambda is 2 times lambda c. So thank you everyone for attending the lecture. So officially the class has been completed. So the attendance has been taken. So everyone can leave. So if you have any specific doubts, you can stay back, or else you can leave the meeting.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, from today's quiz, will we get the assignment returned to us?
Yeah, it will be returned. All your quizzes will be returned.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, will all the quizzes be considered or only 80%?
Only 80%.
Okay.
As of now, it is like 80%.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.